I signaled to the venue staff who were prepped for this exact scenario, and they came over to escort him out. That's when things really blew up. My dad got involved, yelling at me to let it go and not ruin the day. My brother shouted about how I was being selfish, and his girlfriend, she looked like she wanted to disappear. By now, the whole reception was watching this unfold. The staff managed to get my brother outside, but he was still yelling. My dad followed, and I couldn't help myself. I went after them. Outside the venue, it was chaos. My brother was ranting about how I had embarrassed him in front of everyone. And my dad was trying to mediate, saying we should talk it out. I told them both, there's nothing to talk about. You disrespected me and my wife, and you're done here. That's when my brother lost it. He stepped toward me like he was going to punch me, but the venue staff stepped in and held him back. My dad started yelling at the staff, saying they were overreacting and that we were family, but they weren't having it. They told him, "Sir, you need to leave or we'll call the police." At this point, my brother's girlfriend finally spoke up. She said, "I didn't even want this. You've made a fool of yourself." Then she stormed off, leaving my brother standing there like an idiot. Eventually, the staff managed to get both my brother and dad off the property. My mom came out crying and started begging me to let them back in. I told her, "If you don't go back inside and behave yourself, you're next." She looked at me like I had slapped her, but she went back inside without another word. When I walked back into the reception, the mood was tense. People were whispering, and I could feel all the eyes on me. My wife looked furious at the whole situation. She came over, hugged me, and said, "Let's move on. This is our day." And that's exactly what we did. We took a moment to regroup, and then we got back out there. We danced, cut the cake, and tried to salvage what was left of the night. By the end, most people were back to having a good time, but there was no denying the shadow my brother's stunt cast over everything. When the reception finally wound down, my wife and I collapsed into the car, exhausted. She looked at me and said, "Well, at least we handled it." We laughed because honestly, what else could we do? It wasn't the perfect day we imagined, but we were married, and that's what mattered. However, the day after the wedding was a whirlwind of phone calls and whispers from the extended family. Apparently, word of what went down spread like wildfire, and suddenly, everyone had an opinion. Some were calling to check in, but couldn't help slipping in little jabs or fishing for details about the drama. Others flat out scolded me for causing tension, as if my brother's stunt wasn't the root of the issue. My aunt even said something like, "You know how he is. You should have just let it go for the sake of peace." Meanwhile, the family group chat became a passive-aggressive battlefield of cryptic messages and pointed likes on certain comments. It was exhausting to say the least. And yeah, that's it for now. But I'll update you guys on how I'll handle things from now on with my family after my trust with them is shattered. But that will come when I have more time to process everything. Thanks for sticking with me through all this. Take care. It's been 3 weeks after the wedding, and my family has gone completely off the rails. So after the reception, my wife and I took a couple of days to decompress. We stayed off our phones, ignored messages, and just tried to focus on enjoying the fact that we were finally married. It was nice while it lasted, but the silence didn't last long. By the time we checked our phones, there were about a dozen missed calls and texts from my mom, my dad, and of course my brother. The messages ranged from guilt trips to outright rage. My mom's texts were all about how I had embarrassed the family and how I humiliated my brother by having him kicked out in front of everyone. My dad's texts were more neutral, like he was trying to play the peacemaker, but he was still leaning toward defending my brother. And my brother, well, his messages were just straight up angry. He called me selfish, said I ruined his life, and even accused me of turning his girlfriend against him. Speaking of his girlfriend, she broke up with him. Apparently, the whole wedding stunt was the last straw for her. One of my cousins who's close to her told me she was furious that he ignored her feelings and made the proposal all about him. She even said she felt secondhand embarrassment watching him get dragged out by security. Honestly, I don't blame her. If I were in her shoes, I'd probably have done the same thing. Anyway, back to the family drama. After ignoring the call for a bit longer, I finally decided to answer my mom. The moment I picked up, she started crying, saying things like, "How could you treat your brother like that? He's devastated and broken. And don't you care about this family?" I stayed calm and told her that my brother brought this on himself and that I warned him a million times. She didn't want to hear it. She kept insisting that I should have just let it go because it was just a proposal and it wouldn't have hurt anything. I told her, "Mom, he disrespected me and my wife on the most important day of our lives. If you think I'm the bad guy for standing up for myself, then that's your problem, not mine." That didn't go over well. She started yelling about how I'm tearing the family apart, and I just hung up. I wasn't in the mood to argue anymore. Then my dad decided to show up at our house unannounced.